Now, to make your product successful, it's not just to come up with that one thing, right? So you need actually three things. Okay, one is you need to have this. I guess in software world, it's called the killer app, like one knockout feature that nobody else does today. Okay, but if you just have that, that is not enough. You also have to have what are called must-be features and preferred features, and we'll talk about these two in the next few minutes. Okay, so we looked at that bell-shaped curve, right? If you now do it cumulatively, it looks like a S-curve. And if you look at customer adoption over time, this is what happens. And this curve essentially has two things. Because of its shape, it's called the S-curve. Okay? And two things that all products do is that the value increases over time. And as the value increases, the customer adoption increases. And what I mean by value is if you look at from iPhone 1 to iPhone 7, right? The price is roughly the same, okay? But it does more today. The camera is better, the memory is more, right? So for the same money, it is becoming more and more valuable. And as it becomes valuable, it drives adoption. Okay? That is just the characteristic of products. This S-shaped curve has sort of four distinct regions. One is this early stage 1. This is where you got a product and people who are innovators, roughly 2.5% of the population, they will buy it. These are the people who stand in line when the iPhone gets announced. Okay? Then you have what are called the early adopters. So this is that first 16%. In this stage of it, right, the early adopters are actually pretty forgiving as far as to the drawbacks of your product. They really want your product to be successful. So if this is where, let us say you're working on a product which is, there are no good solutions, right? Everybody's trying to work on, let's say, what is this? Self-driving cars. There is no clear winner, right? And that is somewhere over here. If you're in a stage 1 situation, what you essentially have to do, your innovation strategy is to optimize the feature. That main parameter of value, that killer app, is not perfected to be in the mass market. Okay? If you want to go from that initial novelty to mass market, you need to perfect that killer app feature. So if you're in stage 1, your innovation strategy should be optimizing that feature. Okay? You have optimized the feature and you're lucky, and now you're moving into the mass market. The early part of that mass market is called early majority and late majority. Okay? Over here, what you have to do is to increase the value, that is, add more features. As you add features and increase the value of your product, more and more people will start buying it because it becomes more and more useful to them. Okay? So the innovation strategy over here, this is optimizing the features, and here it is adding more features. And by adding more features, what I mean is you're adding more of these preferred features. Okay? Customers don't buy your product only for that one thing. Right? Initially, people bought Tesla because it was all electric. One killer app, you got that, you're in stage 1. But now, over time, Tesla has ludicrous mode, they have autopilot, they're adding features. And as they add features and increase value by bringing down cost, you're getting into mass market. So adding features is what you do in stage 2. Once you get into stage 3, you're sort of flat, you've gotten most of the thing. This is where you could argue, Apple has had a great 10-year run, but almost everybody in the US who is going to buy Apple has bought Apple, right? There are not that many new customers for them. They are somewhere over here. But if you're really in stage 3, that is where you're doing a lot of value engineering. bringing the price down. If you are not doing that, I mean, in time, sometimes your patents, etc., have expired, right? You'll have somebody who will offer that at much lower price. Okay? So in stage 3, what your approach should be is value engineering. So you somewhat have to gauge the product vision that you have. Where am I on this curve? Because the strategy you use is going to be different. And then it actually does decline. The value goes down. And the reason it goes down is because this is where you have, what was it? Francisco, right? You had asked a question about, do I do incremental innovation or out of the box something different? This is what this blue curve is essentially the same technology platform. Okay, this is, and we'll see example. This is like, let us say it's vacuum tubes. Now you go to transistor, right? It does the same thing, but it's a completely different technology, if you will. So when this new technology catches on, right, this drops. Like vacuum tubes, I mean, there are some very niche products, but very expensive. Because everybody has switched to the new technology, this becomes very expensive. So, but there are recommendations if you find yourself in a stage 4, you want to become luxury item. Like if you look at mechanical watches, right? When the quartz movement came, quartz movement had better accuracy than mechanical watches. And if you look at the Swiss watch companies, right, the 80s, they really went down. Right, because quartz movement caught on, and the only way they have survived is now to go into like a luxury type thing. Okay, so that is, for our devices, we is really not in there, but that's one thought, right? So if you look at S-curve, right, and this was, there was a camera, and actually I did use it. It was called one of the early digital cameras. It was Sony Mavica. Okay, when it first came out, it was $13,000. Okay, yeah, $1,300. It only did a 60 KB image because it was storing this memory of this is 1.4 megabytes. It took 6 to 7 seconds. Okay, and digital is now competing with film. Film, roughly a 4x6 is 30 million megapixels. So now, why, this is 97. Why did digital even succeed or even survive? It met an unmet need, which is sharing. Okay? If you look at that time, 95 is when Netscape came up and we had the World Wide Web. People wanted to take pictures and share it immediately with others. Right? Polaroid, you could see your picture instantly, but I couldn't send it to somebody sitting far away. That was also the time when the World Wide Web is coming, web design, putting pictures on your web, etc. They had a need for that. So the point I am trying to make is, if you just measure your main parameter of value as saying picture quality or picture density, right? Your initial product, if you compete on that, you're going to fail. Because digital, even today, perhaps doesn't meet the quality of that film, if you will. Like a 30 megapixel, you get a Hasselblad or some of those huge cameras, if you will. Right? But they identified, and this is also the change in the environment and the technology going on, they identified this need of sharing, which film just couldn't meet. Right? I needed to get digital images also for website development. So that started, and as far as digital cameras go, we are here. You cannot, I mean, if you sort of go with a business plan saying, I have idea for less than $500 digital camera, How many people are going to buy that? Why is it going down? Because the phone camera has gotten so good, right? So there's a market for high end, right? But those are like few $1,000 type digital cameras, but these $200 below cameras is almost gone.